Hey, everybody, welcome back. This is Everybody Has a Story. Now, we have a really, really special guest for you today. We have Brian Sussman. Now, if you guys don't know who Brian Sussman is, you've lived under a rock. And I'm talking not like a pebble, we're talking boulder status here because he has been a profound influence in the Bay Area's, TV landscape for quite a while, talk radio for quite a while. I think 15 to 20 years on both sides. So he knows the ins and the outs. He's gone through trials and tribulations, and he's coming out the other side just absolutely amazing. But we'll get into his story. And don't forget, guys, we're going to talk about Brian's kids. Now, this is a segment on his show and the impact that's happened around the world and around the nation because of him. If I could talk, Brian Sussman, welcome to the show, bud. How are you?
So basically, what you're saying is I'm an old fart who
Yes.
who worked in radio and TV for many decades. But hey, it's great to be with a young guy like you because you make me feel youthful and energized.
Well, you know what? I've been watching and listening to a lot of your stuff. I grew up listening and watching you on TV, and then on the radio. So
Yeah,
your voice is extremely familiar to me, and
yeah.
it's amazing to have the opportunity to sit down and talk with someone who's been around the block. And not that you're an old guy. We're both up there and are a little longer in the tooth, but I want to really quickly get into some of your backstory. Then I have some very specific questions for you. So
Cool.
I just, when you're looking back
Yeah.
and you're seeing yourself where you are now and where you began, what shifted from now versus then in regards to goals, aspirations, dreams, and where did you kind of end up? If you want to take me down that path very, very quickly.
Yeah, media nowadays, if you're a young person and you want to get into uh, traditional media, television news, or if you want to get into radio news, uh, there's not much of a career left anymore because the landscape has changed so much because of the internet, because of streaming, because of podcasts, etc. So I think young people, as opposed to, gosh, I really aspire to be a television anchorman. I think they're thinking, no, I'd rather be an influencer.
Yes.
There's a big difference, and that's why I'm almost sometimes embarrassed nowadays when I tell people, yeah, I used to work in television. Well, that could mean a lot of things, and they don't know where to go with that. So they'll say, well, specifically, what did you do? And I'll say, well, eventually I became a television weatherman. But maybe this is just pride and ego on my part, but I look at television news today, local television news, and it's not the same as it was back in the day. They just don't have the money to pay for talent any longer. And I'm kind of embarrassed to say, yeah, I used to do that because that is not what it was back in the day. And then the local talent. Okay, this is going to go back to when you were a kid. I'm just going to give you an example of how the
Please.
local talent was so awesome back in the day. For example, in San Francisco, which was the fourth largest TV market in the country. So we had an anchorman. Okay, you'll know him, Dave McElhatton.
Of course. I know that. Yeah.
Yeah, Dave, like so many of the people I worked with, was a consummate pro and not just a tremendous anchorman, but he was also a great entertainer. So when you watched the local newscast, there would be several moments in an hour show where you just you'd laugh your butt off because something funny would take place. I'll give you a great example. So Dave McElhatton, there's a story in Philadelphia. We've got a rent-a reporter in Philadelphia. So this is just we can't send a person from San Francisco to Philadelphia for breaking news. So we would just hire people around the country to help us out whenever there was a breaking news story. So Dave pitches to a woman named Regina. And Regina takes over. She does the story. And when Regina is done with her little bit, she says, Dick, back to you. And without missing a beat, Dave says, thank you, Regina.
That's when you
Okay,
get fun on air. That's
yes.
funny.
And where do you get talent like that can think so quickly? But that's the kind of the magic we would have on our local TV newscast. My actual beginnings in media started when I was in high school in my bedroom. I just wanted to be a DJ. I wanted to be a rock
Really?
and roll DJ. That's all I wanted to do. I've got cassette tapes of me being a DJ from my bedroom from when I was just a teenager. But I took that experience and went to the University of Missouri, which at the time had a tremendous journalism school.
Uh-huh.
And I did my thing there, and I was working part-time at a TV station and part-time at a radio station, trying to get as much experience as possible. Graduated school, and the TV station where I worked in production during my college years said,
Uh-huh.
okay, you got your journalism degree. We want you to run our newsroom. So I was the youngest television news director, as they called it back then, in the country. But
Really?
what I realized from that, Greg, was I didn't like management. I didn't like babysitting everybody. I
Yeah.
really wanted to be on camera as opposed to behind the scenes running a station. So that kind of led me to getting back into news on the air, and then eventually, what happened was I was a TV reporter, and I'd always watch, and sometimes an anchorman, and I'd watch the weather guy, and I'm thinking, this dude's having more fun than anybody.
He really
He's
is.
talking about the weather. I mean, anybody can get the weather. You can get it from the radio, you can get it from the newspaper, you can get it from anything. I want that job. And so that got me to go back to school, get a degree in meteorology, and become the weather guy. You
You know
had
what
mentioned,
we always say about weather guys is that we generally think that weathermen and women are full of it. And here's the one reason why is that you come on, Brian Sussman comes on ABC, whatever news channel goes, all right, guys, this weekend's gonna be a rainy one. Everybody get out your umbrellas and your galoshes. It's gonna be a weather atmospheric storm.
right?
Bluebirds and and sunny skies and everything. And we're like, man, that guy just wanted the golf course to himself. Um, but you
Well,
got into this and you started just really kicking some booty, taking some names. You're obviously started out of the cannon with a big blast in regards to being the youngest news director. Is that correct? Or
yeah,
program
that's what they
director?
called it then. Yeah, yeah.
What path where did you go next? Did you kind of, because I know you locked down into TV. Walk me through that really quickly.
Well, and I'm going to be honest with you. I wanted a career where I could have fun, and I think
Mhm.
that's a wonderful thing for anybody.
Yeah.
Find something you're passionate about, find something you have a gift for, right? And that's what you've done in your life. You had a gift for what you have done for a living, and you were really, really good at it. And I would say the same thing to a young person. Find something you're really good at that comes naturally to you. But at the same time, I mean, at least with me, I wanted to make money. I
Right.
wanted to have a career that actually had, an opportunity for some income. And I realized, being in Columbia, Missouri, after graduation from the University of Missouri wasn't going to cut it. And so I
Mhm.
started working my way up the ladder. And I think for a young person today, if you make strategic, well thought out moves, you can actually have that career you enjoy, and you can make a few bucks as well. And so
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to a bigger market and perhaps even the network. And I eventually ended up working for CBS News in New York. I wanted to find that opportunity where I could make as much money as I could in that realm. You're not going to get rich, but you're going to have a nice income. And,
Right.
and that's kind of what I wanted to do.
You know what? It's interesting that you say that because both TV and then radio have different attributes. You make good incomes.
Yeah.
You're not going to become a bajillionaire
Yeah.
unless you own the network. Then that's a totally different topic of discussion.
Right.
But there was a strategic shift in your life. You were doing extremely well in TV, and then you had a beautiful change that took place. And you and your incredible wife, the more I learn about this woman, the
Yeah.
more she is unbelievable on everything I've ever heard.
Yeah.
You guys sat down and help me understand when you're at the pinnacle of success, you're kicking booty,
Yeah.
then it shifted. What took place and what happened next?
I know what you're alluding to. So this was a pretty cool story. One of the things when I was at Channel 5 in San Francisco, we had a program that was developed. It was called Brian's Kids.
Mhm.
And the TV station had learned that I had two of my three kids were adopted. And so they thought I'd be the perfect fit for this concept. We worked with all of, in the San Francisco Bay Area, we worked with all of the social services departments in each one of the counties. There was an overload of foster kids at that particular time, and they needed to find permanent homes, permanent families for these foster kids. I mean, you can imagine if you're in foster care and they call it aging out. You get to 18 and there's no place for you. You literally, it's like, okay, see ya, good luck.
Really?
Well, what the heck
Yeah.
happens to these kids?
Yeah.
It's horrible. And so they said, listen, we want it. We want you to front this thing and put together these pieces once a week where we'll just get children who are eligible for adoption in the Bay Area and highlight them. You get, in a couple minutes, get to know their story and promote them. And let's see if we can get these kids adopted. Well, I got to tell you, Greg, over the course of 10 years, we saw over 400 kids get adopted. It was
Whoa.
just phenomenal. And one of the last kids that were adopted from this program was this I'll get all choked up. I'm sorry. Um, this little guy named Josh. He was 6 years old.
Mhm.
He was born in an ambulance, addicted to cocaine.
Mm.
His mother was a prostitute. I met this kid when he was 6. We highlighted him, and I just fell in love with this goofy little kid. And I came back after that shoot, and I told my wife, I said, listen, I just met this kid today. We got to adopt him. And so my wife said, well, let's see if we can bring him over. So social worker came over, brought him over. We hit it off with this goofy little guy. And long story made short, we had a family meeting. Okay, what are we going to do? And so turned to my daughter. She's the biological kid in the family. She says, well, we got to adopt him. That's what we do. Turn to my son. He's adopted. And he says, well, yeah, I mean, Josh isn't going to think he's cool unless he comes to live in our family. And then Ben, the youngest son, was like, okay, well, whatever Sam says, I agree with. And so now we turn to my wife and she says, okay, I'm all in, but here's the deal. You leave the house sometimes before noon to go to work. You do the 5 o'clock news, 6 o'clock news, 11 o'clock news. You don't get home till at least 12:30. If you go out with the boys after work, you're not getting home till 1:30 in the morning. I'm doing after school activities. I'm doing homework. I'm doing dinner. I'm putting these kids to bed. You add one more to the list, I can't do it. So it's your decision. You want to keep doing your job? Great. If you don't, and you want Josh, if you want Josh, you can't do that job.
Mm.
Well, I made that decision, Greg, in like 2 seconds. It was like, okay, I'm done with the job. I'm done.
You're out.
And back then, this is the 90s. People in local news in San Francisco, you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's back then that was a lot of money. It's still a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
But to me, it was like, what else do I have to do in life? I mean, and can I tell you something, Greg? This kid Josh has become the most outstanding young man you'll ever met. He's a stand-up comic in New York now.
That's what you were saying.
He's incredible. Kid's incredible. And he's my son. It's awesome. So that was the phase shift that ended up eventually getting me into talk radio.
I guess because I was on KGO. You and I shared a wall. You were on our opposing team.
Yes, I remember. Yeah. You're because your name is so recognizable, right? Because of that. Yeah.
And the funny thing is that
KGO was a great radio station. One of the best news stations in the country. Yeah.
It was awesome to work with them for a long period of time, but there's a difference. And Brian, I want people to understand that because everyone's pushing right now, video, and that's what I do with my training. What the people I teach, I say, get on video, you got to get on camera, so on and so forth. But there's a distinctive difference between TV and radio. When you're on radio, you can dress the way you and I are dressed right now, very comfortable. We're casual. We have our notes in front of us. We can go from there. We can wing it. We got the computer. We can look stuff up. Nobody sees us. TV, teleprompter, makeup, dressed to the nines, at least from the waist up. Newscaster, special shorts and flip-flops below, shirt and tie above. But when people are looking back, and they're saying, well, I would like to get into this industry, or I want to do a podcast, or I want to do YouTube, or whatever the variety is. What lessons, if you could pick one or two lessons from both sides, what would you warn your younger self about or encourage your younger self about?
Yeah, that's a really, really wonderful question. I think first of all, you want to have a product that people need. And whether they need it for information or for entertainment or just for a moment of levity in their lives, you have to provide something of value. but I think you want to be good at your craft. And I would say it's like so many of the influencers I see on podcasts nowadays, unlike your program, they're they're just editing the crap out of their
Yeah.
product. It's because they don't have the experience and the talent to just riff for, and for 15 minutes or 30 minutes or 45 minutes. They can't do it without edit after edit after edit after edit. And I think that they really need to learn their craft so that they can better
Yeah.
sell whatever it is that they're trying to, inform people about. That's the one thing. The other
Mhm.
thing that I think is important is don't insert yourself into your content unless there's going to be a payoff. Maybe it's a laugh, or maybe you're
Right.
actually sharing from your life's story something that
Uh-huh.
is really of value. So don't insert yourself. And then the other thing I would say is don't do clickbait. I mean, people tire of that so
Thank
fast,
you.
right?
Gosh.
Yeah.
It sorry, I cut you off. Keep going. I'm literally sitting here just I'm like,
Well,
taking
the
notes.
clickbait issue, is it just about the views? Is that all you want? Well, then just, pull down your pants and show your ass to the camera. I mean, if that's what you want views, but I think you want to have beneficial content, something with meaning, something that's going to last. So if you're just going for clicks and views, I mean, okay, well, more power to you, but that's not impressive to me at all. And I think for most people, it becomes a waste of time. Sure, you can brag, say, well, that one particular episode on YouTube has 10 million views now. Well, okay, great. What have you done for me lately? I don't
Nothing.
mean to sound like, like somebody who's not caring. I'm just telling you, in the business of media, that's kind of important.
It is important, and I 100,000% agree with you. You see all the jump cuts and the different shifts, and they don't pay attention to the details, and they're like, we know that didn't all happen at one time, guys. So let's not pretend
Mhm.
it did.
Yeah.
And people are afraid of what they sound like, and they're even more afraid of what they look like. And so, for them to not be fully focused on what they're looking for, they're like, "Oh my gosh, my hair right, my makeup right, is my outfit correct? Am I saying the right
Yeah.
words perfectly?" Look,
Yes.
you are not Brian Sussman. Let's get this
Yeah.
very straight. You are not trained in multi different facets of media. This man
Right.
went to school for it. He's literally he breathes it, sleeps it, eats
Yeah.
it, dreams about it. If you're not perfect, it's okay. People already know what you sound like, what you look like. Just get out there and bring value, Brian, to what you were saying. Bring something that's going to change somebody else's life. Don't insert your own opinions into it and say, "This is what I found. This might help you."
Right.
Was that
Right.
kind of that's where you're going? Is that the
It
path that
does.
you're
Yeah.
thinking about?
Yeah, and I think that's super important because we want to bring value. We want to try educate. We want to innovate. We want to inspire. We want to encourage. And that's kind of where I've gone in my career now. For almost 20 years after I transitioned from television, well, the way I transitioned into radio
Mhm.
was 9/11 occurred, and there was a radio station in San Francisco. Their particular host wasn't able to make it back to the station on 9/11 because all the airports were closed down. He was up in Seattle. He was going to fly back that morning. All
Really?
air traffic was turned off, so to speak. And
Uh-huh.
so I knew the sales manager at this station, and he said, "Hey, Brian, Craig, our host for the afternoon show, can't make it in. You want to come on the air?" And it's like, well, it's 9/11. Like there's nothing happening today. Yeah, I'll come on the air. I want to talk about this as much as anybody.
Heck yeah.
Well, well, so it was interesting because a guy named, well, you know him because he was your boss at KGO, Jack Swanson.
I know Jack.
Yeah. Jack heard that show and said, "Hey, Sussman, how would you like to come to work at our conservative station, KSFO?" And I was like, okay, best conservative station. So you had KGO, best station in the world, KSFO, best conservative station in the United States. I was like, and to work for Jack Swanson and Mickey Luckhoff? Are you kidding me? I'll jump on that in a second. So that's how I transitioned into talk radio. But talk radio, especially as a conservative, you're a lightning rod. I mean, you're sharing your opinions, but people are either going to love you or they're going to hate you. And after doing that for 20 years, when I finally ended up leaving, it was a little bit of a contract dispute and some other things going on.
Sure.
That was in 2019. I was kind of like, okay, well, what am I doing now? And I've toyed around with some podcasts, but what I want to do now with my new podcast series is I just want to encourage, I just want to inspire. Don't talk a lot about politics, talk more about the spiritual side of things. And that's where I am today. I want to use this wonderful medium that everybody's using these days to really bring value to somebody's life.
And you're doing it. I want to go to what you just said, and I want to backtrack a half a second on formatting really quickly, which I think is what you created was absolutely stinking genius, just to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Um, when it comes to what you're creating right now, it's 15 minutes with Brian Sussman, and I want you to plug that and go a little bit deeper on it. I
Okay.
the other week, but I was prepping for this show, right? This interview with you, and I was watching some of your past episodes. Actually, I completely binge watched all of your episodes on the new podcast. To be real honest with you,
Yeah.
and I had tears in my eyes. You're telling stories about your young friend that passed, some stories about your mom,
Yeah.
your grandma, and your dad, and they're funny, but they're relevant, and they tug on the old heartstrings. And I want that's a passion for you. On this show, you said, look, guys, I'm going to get a little emotional. That's you being real. That's
Yeah.
not
No. Yeah.
clickbait. That's you being
No.
honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is what got me teary eyed listening to you get teary eyed talking about something that was important to you. So, the power of that, guys and gals that are listening to what Brian's saying, what I'm reiterating,
Yeah.
is that when you're authentically true to yourself, the real you shows up. The rest of
Mhm.
the world's going to be waiting to see you and meet you. So please do that. Now, Brian, you did this in a
Yeah.
very unique way of scheduling. You do a third, and a third. Can you walk me through that on your programming? Because a lot of folks say, well, I have to have one idea or one concept or something for a show, but you did it a third and a third and a third. Am I getting that correct or am I off basis?
Yeah. Now, okay. Give me example of one of the thirds, so I'll know exactly what you're talking about.
So it'd be like, one of them would be some humor, some of it would be
Got it.
news, local. You,
Yes.
you know where I'm
Yes.
going with
Yes.
that.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's exactly right. And that was something that it was. I didn't learn that in journalism school. I learned that from some old pros along the way who you can't be even in in a popular television newscast. They're not just going to hit you with hard news all the time.
Yeah.
You've got to have an opportunity as the anchor man for some levity. Show them who you really are.
Hmm.
So there's an opportunity for humor. There's an opportunity for seriousness, and there's an opportunity for challenge. And that's what I try to bring to the floor in each one of these new podcasts. And I think also you mentioned the word authenticity. People love it
Yeah.
when the person that they're watching or they're listening to is authentic. And
Yeah.
maybe there's that moment where you lose it and you break down in tears. Hey man, that's okay. I'm seeing you. Or when you just, there's that moment in time where you just laugh your ass off because there's a moment of hilarity and you're really laughing. You can't
Yeah.
fake that stuff. People see through it.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true. I did a thing. I did the original episode of this series, and I said, "Well, who in the heck am I going to do my first show on?" I'm like, "Me. I have to
There you
do it
go.
about me, and I have to show
That's
people my real self."
that's brilliant.
And I had just gone through a massive breakup. I mean, talk about life destruction and re-altering in 72 hours. It
Yeah.
was 0 to wow, bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I told my story, and this comes back to being authentic, right? And tearing up and being real. I
Yeah.
told a story about the breakup. I used Opus Clip to clip out the stuff. I didn't think anything about it. That one clip talking about the exact day that it took place got about 500,000 views. Now that's more than I've ever seen ever in my life
Yeah.
on one clip, but
Yeah.
because it was the most authentic I ever been. So, Brian, would you challenge people to be real and take the mask off for stinking
And
sake?
okay, when you were, people, everybody's gone through a breakup of some sort, right?
True.
And it may be a love affair that breaks up. It could be a job that breaks up. It could be a
True. Yeah.
friendship. You touch you got all those you got all that response because you were touching people's lives with your authenticity. And I think that's people want that kind of interaction with the podcast. They're
Yeah. They need
desiring
it.
that kind of authenticity, to use the word again. So yeah, I think, and what a great way to start out, because if that's the first podcast you're going to watch in your series, it's like, dude, I like this guy. He's the real deal, and I can relate to what he just said.
When you did,
I think that's so. I think it's brilliant. That's just a great way to start.
I appreciate that. I didn't know what I was doing with it. And then I
Yeah,
watched your first episode and you said basically the same thing. Like, I'm going to get real freaking honest with you guys.
yeah,
So
man.
buckle
Yeah,
in. Here we
yeah,
go. And
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
instantly, I was like, I now like this man.
yeah,
I can relate to him. Now I know
yeah.
that we're coming up on a hard stop here in a few minutes. You have a couple of other meetings today with
Well,
some very exciting things we talked about off air.
I'm enjoying the convo. So just keep going, dude. We're
Okay.
good. Yeah,
Okay. I mean, heck, man, to sit and talk with a legend, I'm in
yeah,
like nobody's business.
yeah,
Let's talk about your son really quickly. And I know that you've adopted, you said 3 kids out of your 4.
yeah. We always
Um,
like to
you
say
know,
we have 3 kids who are adopted. We can't remember which 3.
they all blend together because they're all amazing human beings.
And it's interesting for those who are little, don't know. For those who have adopted, they get it. For those who don't understand adoption, because it's not for everybody.
Right.
But my boys, they don't look any. I mean, we always, as as they always like to say, I'm
I
the
know you're
black guy with 2 white parents. That's what they all say.
I'm the black guy with 2 white parents. That's me.
It's, it's so as a result, when they all start having kids, it's like we look around. It's like okay. There's 3 of us. Okay, it's my wife, our biological daughter, and I, and our kids and their spouses and our grandkids. They love it. They absolutely love it. So it's a trip.
It doesn't matter the skin tone of a human being on earth. It matters about the human being that they are below it. White, black, Asian, pick Mexican, pick any diversity, right? It's about the core. I got teared up last night. I was watching a video on YouTube or something. No, on Facebook, and it was about this uh, Hispanic man who came in and he saw this white guy, which is all obviously all staged, but asking for money. Can you give me $1? The guy would flat broke, and he had like 4 kids, and he was and his wife, and he was a truck driver, and he gave his last $2. He went in and bought candles. He bought a card. He put $5 into this card, and it just showed the humanity of people.
Mhm.
And once you peel away the labels and the BS the society gives us, and we get to know the human,
Mhm.
that's when the magic happens.
True.
Doors fly open, the good Lord's blessings fall on you.
Mhm.
Not that you have to do anything right to have the Lord's blessing on you, but it's nice to work alongside other, how do I phrase this correctly? Well-minded, well-rounded individuals that can have a laugh and you
Yeah.
can do work
Yeah.
with, make some
Yeah.
money with.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks, my buddy James, who's in the military, is actually downrange right now. He and his wife adopted a child, very similar to your story, and they have the same sense of humor about it, and they keep pushing because it's not about anything about what people are going to think. It's about how much love you have to offer and give, and that is a pivot in life. So both pivoting with family and pivoting with career wise, which one would you say was one of the easier transitions and which one was a little bit of the harder transitions? Because people are kind of wrestling with that concept all the time.
Yeah. I Not everyone's a risk taker.
True.
Okay. And I get the feeling, based on, the livelihood that you've been involved in and your success in that livelihood, you're somewhat of a risk taker.
Yeah. Yeah.
I certainly am, but I like to make calculated risks. And I would say that to anyone. It's you can brag about being a risk taker, but are they the right type of risks? When I transitioned first from, being a news guy to the weather guy,
Hmm.
was that wise to do that? Well, I thought, you know what? I like to have fun. I like to make people laugh. We could make a show of this weather thing, and I think it could work really, really well.
Right.
Um, when I transitioned to talk radio, I thought, well, this is kind of what I wanted to do originally when I was, in my bedroom as a kid doing DJ work on a cassette recorder. So I think I could actually do this. Um, and I would say the same thing with podcasting. I think I can do this. Now, there are some podcasters that are just absolutely huge out there. I applaud
Huge.
them to the hilt. And I don't know if I could ever get to that level at this point in my life, but I'm agreeing with you. There are times where you have to make moves. You have to make calculated, do a calculated risk assessment, and then see if I can do this. And then if you do it, go for it, man. Don't screw around. Put your entire self into it. And that's where young people today have an advantage because they've got lots of bandwidth, lots of energy. And if you really want to do this, like my son who's a comedian in New York,
Yeah.
I said, Josh, if you really want to do this, you understand how comedy works. Or if you don't, I'll tell you, you're gonna be making nothing for about 10 years. And then if you make it, you know, you'll be okay. If you can survive that first 10 years, you might be okay. But just be ready to do grunge work and get bad stage time and
Yep.
but you got to work through it.
But Brian, that's the perfect analogy for life. I
Yeah,
don't care
it
what
is.
you're stepping into. If you want to go
Yes.
after something, it could be a relationship, it could be career, it could be,
Hmm.
a hobby, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you do it half-ass and you just
Yeah.
kind of like, well, I'm going to dabble my big toe into the pool and see if it's cold or if it's
Right.
hot.
Right.
Congratulations. You're not going to get anywhere. And I don't mean that vindictively. I mean
Yeah.
it realistically.
Well, I mean,
If you're
think
not
of
going to
some
go
of the
full
first
tilt.
think of okay, the first real estate transactions you were involved in.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Probably nothing to brag about, but at least you got some under your belt and you had to grow from there, right?
Yep, got bruised and beaten and bloodied. I learned some really valuable lessons.
Yeah.
I was a hothead 20, almost 21-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
That is a very easy, nice way of putting it. Um, but you'll learn from everything. And I decided one day, I said, you know what? I'm gonna go all in
Hmm.
on my real estate career because
Hmm.
to be honest, I had nowhere else to turn. I dropped
Yeah.
out of college.
Uh-huh.
I had no. I mean, if I was going to be a bagger at Safeway, great, they're hiring, which was my high school job. So I knew the career path. I didn't like that career path, and I love everybody at Safeway. But I said, you know what? I love like you. I
Yeah.
love microphones. I love lights. I love cameras.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
being in front. I love bringing
Yeah.
value. I love bringing
Yeah.
something of substance
Right.
to the world. It's not my brother-in-law. It's my cousin's husband, and he's a
Okay.
doctor, ER doctor, and she's a nurse.
Okay.
And Carter's his name. And Carter hit me up the other day. He's like, Greg, I don't get to watch your mornings with McDaniel's, my inspirational thing I do in the mornings. And it's just purely for fun. It's like my own personal vlog
Yeah.
of me, talking about something important in my life at that point. He's like, dude, I watch your stuff every single day on my lunch break. If I can't watch you during the morning live because I get encouraged by watching it. And I'm like, you watch my stuff?
That's great.
Really?
Yeah.
And so, for that being said, I mean, Brian, the families that you've impacted
Yeah.
with all the different programs, all the different segments, all the different, content you've covered, I'm one of the people that has benefited from you a day in, day out, doing what's necessary in the backside in regards to getting ready for the shows, getting on camera, getting on, on air, whatever way, but you showed up and you
Yeah.
made us as the listening and watching viewership, we felt like we were in your living room. We wanted to talk with Brian. We
Yeah.
loved where your mind was at because you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
And that's what I wrote down was passion. Whenever I look down, I'm not being disrespectful, by the way. I'm just taking notes. When
Yeah.
you find that passion, never, ever give it up. Brian's a master at TV and radio. And your podcast, we can't let that go. Now, you have a bunch of shows going out there right now. Talk to us a little bit about the shows, and then I really want to hear about your daughter's show because I have it on my watch list. It is my
Good.
watch
Good.
episode that I'm going to watch all the way
Yeah.
down to the store after this.
So yeah, with my podcast, I've done a lot over the years, but I started a new series just a few weeks ago, and it's called 15 Minutes with Brian Sussman. So my goal was, I mean, this was just a personal goal that was sort of ego driven. I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna turn on the camera open up the mic, and I'm going to talk for 15 minutes, and I'll even have a stopwatch, and I'm ending, somewhere within that 15th minute, unedited stream of consciousness, whatever's on my heart, I'm just
Right.
going to share. Let's see if that can work. So for one, it's kind of a challenge for me to do that. It's like once I hit record, we're on. So I kind of dig that. But I'm talking about, real life stuff. And again, I'm not really delving into politics. I think the closest I got to politics was in a recent episode. I have some wonderful friends that I've got a Saturday morning Bible study with
Oh,
literally men from all over the world.
those guys sound really cool, by the way.
They're just awesome guys. And here we are in the West, and we're in the lap of luxury. Guess what? Some of the guys on this call are in Nigeria.
Yeah.
It's a hellhole right now. Nigeria it's on a tipping point, as my friend said. It's half the country is Muslim, half the country is Christian. And the people running the country are radicals. They're radicals. And there's a lot of warfare. There's a lot of kidnapping. There's a lot of
Hmm.
murder in the streets as the radicals go after these Christians. And my friends are in the middle of it.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and so to be able to talk about what's going on in Nigeria, because it doesn't make the news here, people, for whatever reason, and I learned this early on. I should just mention this story, Greg, because I learned
Sure.
this in the news biz early on from a producer that I worked with. He told me that my problem was, and this is when I was doing some science reporting,
Uh-huh.
which I did a lot of. He told me, he said, your problem is, Brian, you don't know which facts to leave out. Sometimes to make a
Oh,
story better, you've got to leave out certain facts. And I was like, what the, come on, Fritz, are you kidding me? You can't. But that's the way oftentimes, I'm just saying, certain people in the news biz, in order to put forward a point of view or an opinion,
uh-huh.
they will leave facts out. And I think the news media, when it comes to Nigeria, is leaving certain facts out because they don't want to offend
Yep.
certain people. And I
Yep.
can just use air quotes, and I think you know what I'm talking about.
Everybody knows what you're talking about.
Yes. And so, to tell my friend's story from this past weekend where there was just another slaughter of Christian people in the streets, innocent people. And I started out the story, they shared a story with me, and it had made the news in their town. This one mother was seen on video. She's hugging her little baby, saying,
Oh my
wake up.
gosh.
And the baby was dead.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
nobody, see, no, Greg, no one got to hear that story in US media. And it meant so much for my friends to get on my little podcast and talk about this. And they said, we appreciate it so much. They said, you don't know how many people in Nigeria are watching this podcast now because you're encouraging them. I'm encouraging people I'll never meet.
Isn't that
They're on the
cool?
other side of the world,
Yeah, that's awesome.
living in a hellhole. And to be able to just speak a word of encouragement, man, to me, that's what it's all about, bro. That meant
Y-
everything to me when I got that feedback.
You and I, honestly, I think are cut from very, 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 very similar cloth in regards to that. Because you, from what I'm understanding as we talk more and more, is that you got a heart of gold. You're an exhorter. You give and you give and you give and you give. And that's what kind of brings some joy to you from what I'm understanding.
Yes.
And am I off or am I correct on
No,
that?
you're right on.
Okay.
I think, especially as you get older, I can look back and there may be somebody watching this saying, "Well, yeah, I worked with him. He was an ass." Or I remember the time he said this to me, or I remember my mouth has always gotten me in trouble. But as now a guy who's older, I look back, okay, there were a lot of hits. I mean, we had just a lot of great things happen, but you know what? There were some misses too. And I said
Mhm.
things that I shouldn't have said, and I did things I shouldn't have done, and I probably offended a lot of people along the way. So now, what can I bring to the microphone at this stage of my life? I just want to take these stories that I'm sharing in 15 minutes to try encourage and inspire. And I can't remember the word you just used. Was it empower, or you just used a wonderful word? But whatever it was, I want to be that guy. That's
Okay,
who
we'll
I
go
want
back
to
to
be.
we'll rewind and then we'll just put this together. I, it, it is
Yeah.
uniquely interesting.
Yeah.
That once people understand that when you're honest and true to yourself, the authenticity comes out, and then all of a sudden you become relevant to everyone around you. Because when you told me, well, I felt like you were talking to me, right,
Hmm.
on your podcast,
Yeah.
and you said it. And this is obviously not a secret. I mean, faith and religion is a very big priority in your life.
Yeah.
When you said, and I'll be honest, my parents, Terry McDaniel, Sally McDaniel, love them to pieces. Hard, very, very fast, hard, strong Christians in a very positive way. They walk their talk. And they've said it to me for years. But what it did when coming out of your mouth from a third party, when you said, Greg, my mouth is, well, not Greg, but you're talking on the air and you're like, look, my mouth has got me in a lot of trouble. I've said bad things. I've done dumb things. I'm human. I'm more human than I am, a better version of
Right.
whatever your exact vernacular was. But
Right.
it resonated with me and it gave me permission to be not perfect, to listen to your show. I didn't have to
Yeah.
be high and mighty. I can be
Right.
Greg. Brian can
Yeah.
be Brian, and we
Yeah.
can not ever have met, but still have gained something powerful off of what you were saying, because then I can pass it on to the next person going, dude, it's cool if
Yeah.
you're not perfect. Check
Yeah.
me out. I'm a walking dumpster fire, and this is Greg McDaniel talking. And I try to rein back the stupid at times, but sometimes I'm not so successful. But we're humans, are we not?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. And the thing is, if you conceive God properly,
Yeah.
God, I mean, the word, when people throw out the word grace, they throw out the
Mhm.
word mercy, but here's how God operates. He operates with grace. Grace means getting what you don't deserve. And
Oh, so
and
true.
and I think God just he loves to bless us with stuff we don't deserve it. We didn't do anything for it. It's just I think God just loves to bless us with things that are important to us. And then the other word is mercy. Mercy is not getting what you deserve. Like all those times
Yes.
I said this and did this, I deserved, to use Yiddish vernacular, I deserved a slap in the tuchus. Somebody should have slapped me on my bottom side. And but God didn't do that. He didn't, because he's a God of love. And I love talking about that because I think a lot of people have a misconception of who this God of the Bible is. And if they really knew, they'd say, he's not so bad after all.
Well, we're told that I call him the big guy in the sky, right?
Yeah, there
The
you
big
go.
guy in the sky is going to come over and he's going to judge you for everything you have or have not done accurately, correct? And you're sitting there going, well, that laundry list is pretty stinking long. I'm not sure I'm going to cut out for this one. I think I'm in the wrong line. Line change, please. This man. But in reality is that you were already loved before you knew you were loved. I am learning
Yes.
that lesson daily
Yes.
on a consistent
Yes.
basis.
Yeah.
And with the breakup that we discussed earlier in this show,
Yeah.
right? I thought
Mhm.
we were, I mean, meow, it's going to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Got ripped out of my life and I was bitter.
Yeah.
I mean, I was bitter
Yeah.
and sad, of course. But
Yeah.
though that's a protection, that right there is grace.
Yeah.
And that is,
Yes.
he's gracing me with the opportunity to go live a different varietal of life that I may or may not have been able to do based
Yeah.
upon my life's, choices at that moment.
Yes.
Um, I know I've said it before, but I know you're on a timeline, and I want to trust me. I want to have you back, and I want to just keep riffing with you. This is way
Good.
too much stinking fun. I haven't
Cool.
even
Good.
gone into some of the real questions, but
Good.
people are on the fence, and I want you to be very. I want to be very serious about this, guys. If you're on the fence and you're kind of honing a hum about this whole like religious thing, I want you to go to listen with the 15 minutes with Brian Sussman. I want you to listen to the episode that he talks about his father. Now, you are going to laugh your butt off, but you're also going to cry your rear end off. It is impactful. It is eye opening,
Yeah.
and it is something that both you and and your mom, beautiful stories. And if people can take that, disseminate it down, and put it into their own life and their version of it,
Mhm.
that would be insanely awesome.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now you have more episodes coming out, right?
Yeah. There, I do them a couple times, once or twice a week for sure. And I'm really excited about that. But just look for Brian Sussman Show. That's how my podcasts have always been presented. Brian Sussman Show, 15 minutes with Brian Sussman is the current series. That story about my dad is great. He later in life, he just had a lot of bad things happen to him, and his luck sort of ran out with a bunch of different things. And he finally made it all up in the last 90 minutes of his life. You can hear that story, and also my own personal story. And Greg, I did what you did. Your first story you just told about you. You just talked about
Yeah.
you, not as an ego thing. It was like, if I'm gonna, okay, who is this guy, Greg? Okay, I need to know about him. Well, I thought maybe if you don't know who I am, now you can know another side of me that you've never heard of or whatever. But the point is, my life took a turn when I was 10. I saw something that no 10-year-old or anybody should ever see. I saw the death of my best friend.
Mhm.
It was awful. It was gruesome. It scarred me for years, but God finally brought healing into my life after many years of just uh, hiding behind alcohol and hiding behind being a jerk and hiding
Yep.
behind so many things. But see, that's the kind of stuff I love to talk about because I know that there's somebody out there that's going to say, "Man, I've been waiting for somebody to tell me this for a long time."
Dude, that's exactly when I heard your
Yeah,
first episode. I was like,
yeah,
dude, I've got to meet this guy. I have
yeah,
to meet this man.
yeah.
Um, okay, Brian,
Cool.
I'm gonna, if with the grace of the good Lord, get you back on. We'll have another conversation down the road, but your
I
time is
can't
worth
wait.
a ton.
I can't wait.
And thank you for the compliment, by the way.
Seriously, no, really. It just, I'm glad you're taking the time to do these because we need more voices. We need more realistic, authentic voices who are just and unedited voices at the same time. So I applaud you. Keep going.
Thank you, Brian. Now we do need to talk about your daughter's podcast.
Oh
You
yes,
mentioned.
good.
Tell me a little bit more about. Tell the audience a little bit more about your
Yeah.
daughter's podcast.
She is she's a therapist, so it's called Real, REAL, Real and Redeemed. And the subtitle is A Therapist and Her Bestie. And so these two girls have known each other since they were kids in junior high.
Right.
They are absolutely hilarious and pretty raw, but at the same time, they're working through things that especially young women are dealing with right now. Gals in their 20s, 30s, 40s are going to say, I love these two ladies. This is hilarious, but they're giving me advice that I really need. And I think if you're a guy curiously listening in, you're going to find it fascinating as well. So real and redeemed. And thank you for allowing me to plug that.
Sure, absolutely, man. I
Cool.
just I appreciated our time more than you can possibly imagine. Guys, go follow Brian Sussman. That's Sussman. Anywhere podcasts are going to be aired. Go dig into his history, his past. I know I did. It is extensive. It is incredibly easy to like follow because you want to see where the next topic goes. And then you get to have the chance to sit down with an incredible human who's bringing value, has gone through trials and tribulations, has recognized the good, the bad, the ugly, and the amazing in life, and is now here to share. So, Brian, beyond thank you for your time today, my friend.
And make sure you say hello to your parents for me and tell them thanks for listening.
You know what? I will absolutely tell T Dog and Sal Dog hello from you and thank you. So,
That's great.
guys, Brian, any final thoughts on your side, my friend, before we get out of here?
No, again, I just appreciate the opportunity to talk about myself. I find no other topic worth. I'm just kidding.
That's an honest answer, ladies and gentlemen.
It's, it's great to speak. It's great to always have a platform to speak from my heart. There you go. Thank you.
Perfect. Brian, stay put. The rest of you guys, I'll see you guys on the next video. Again, this is Everybody Has a Story, and I will see you guys on the next episode.